All right, folks, welcome to our preview of the Premier League games over the weekend. I'm Statman Dave, and I'm joined by Manchester football correspondent for the Guardian and Observer, Jamie Jackson. And of course, that covers the red side of Manchester. We've got to go over to the blue side, and that is Manchester City correspondent for The Athletic, Sam Lee. Welcome, guys, to the show.
Thank you.
We're going to be looking at all the games in the Premier League, so your team will be covered. We're going to get different guests all over the footballing world. But of course, we've got the Manchester world right now, so we're going to be focusing particularly on Manchester City and Tottenham, but also Wolves versus Manchester United, the big game on Monday night. Again, this is a new show, so let us know in the comments below what you think. But anyway, it's time to dive into the tactics and the chat. So let's take a look at the weekend's biggest game. First versus fourth from last season, Manchester City versus Tottenham. City steamrolled West Ham at the London Stadium on the opening weekend 5-0, and Spurs eventually swatted Villa aside 3-1 at home. Sam, how do you think Pep Guardiola will approach this game, given the recent titanic battles between the two clubs?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of different things he could do this weekend. I think if you look at most of the games last season, if you discard the away leg of the Champions League, that was a very specific performance, just to kind of keep things tight. I don't think he'll do that. If you look at the return leg where they went for it, 4-3-3, same as normal. The home game in the Premier League a few days later, 4-3-3. There's always variations within that, and I'm expecting maybe some of that this weekend with the different personalities he could bring in. He could maybe change a few players, which would change the roles. But yeah, I'm thinking 4-3-3, and it'll be the same old City we've got used to, really. They'll attack and they'll try and overwhelm Spurs, and maybe they'll bring certain players into different positions just to mix things up a bit.
The player that really impressed against West Ham was Rodri in midfield.
Yeah.
How do you feel he's been so easily to fit into that City side? How do you think he's done that, and how do you think City have done that?
Well, I think he's very confident on the ball. I think he's very confident as a human being, and that's helped him settle in. He's got some friends in the dressing room already. I was speaking to some of the other City players last weekend for an article I wrote about how he fits in, and you don't see so many players in European football take the ball on the edge of their own box with their back to the game and just confidently take it and give it to somebody else. And it looks easy. It really isn't. They need Ederson to do it. They need Fernandinho to do it, or Rodri in this case. And just the way that he pops it off to someone else helps City move up the pitch, and that's the basis of all their attacks. And he's done it basically because City have, they've worked hard to identify what he's like on the pitch, what he's like away from the pitch, how he fits in, his skill set, and they've worked out that this guy is going to be a good fit for them. And so far, we've seen that. There's been a couple of hairy moments where he gets caught on the ball, which kind of makes me think, I think he probably will start on Saturday, but I wouldn't be massively surprised if he didn't. The only problem is Fernandinho has not played last couple of games. He's played for Brazil during the summer. And Gundogan actually played really well against Spurs in that Champions League game, the 4-3 at the Etihad. I wonder if he might play, just because you don't want to risk somebody getting caught on the ball against a team like Tottenham, because that's what they work to do.
That's a big thing. Let's move on to Tottenham. Jamie, do you think Tottenham are the closest to Manchester City and Liverpool out of the Premier League top six sides?
Yes, if you count Liverpool, City's only real rival, I think. I watched the Villa game on TV, and they weren't great. And then sort of Kane pops up. I think he got 2 at the end. I always feel the same about Spurs. They're a very good side, obviously, but they're sort of lacking, I think, like 3 or 4 other top quality players to really, really scare. It was interesting, the Champions League tie. They obviously knocked City out. I mean, that can happen. But my theory on it is not really a revolution one. It's because City was sort of in for every competition. They'd already won the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup, etc. That it would have taken something out of them. I think without, say they're not in those other 2 competitions, haven't gone all the way to the final Carabao Cup, I think that they're beating Spurs, knocking them out quite easily, to be honest.
They're fresher. They've got the players.
Yeah, just mentally, I just think there is a thing that no matter how much you are positive, as they obviously were, and you are doing really well, I think there is a thing where it's got to take something out of you. You've got a certain level mentally. But
I think we saw that in the Champions League final, where Spurs didn't actually adapt to the where they were, what the competition was there.
Yeah, exactly. I think they are. Not nailed on, but I think I'd be surprised if they're not third.
Yeah,
is what we're discussing, and then the 4th position it's up for grabs, I'd say. I can't work out how good a manager Pochettino is. He's obviously good, but he's got some cracking players there. Kane is a sort of one-off. I think if I was a manager of Spurs, he would still be the same, because he manages himself, sort of in Harry Kane. And I think he's got, there's a couple of other players like Eriksen. Obviously, you saw the difference when he came on in that game.
Massive impact came off when they came on when they were 1-0 down. They went 3-1.
So yeah, I mean, having said all that, I do think they're vulnerable. So they get a couple of bad results. Maybe they won't do as well this season. But they are quite hardened now at that top end. Mentally, I think they feel they belong there, and that's the big thing that he's done. He's made it.
That's the beauty of Pochettino, I think. Yeah, he's turned them into that team.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of it being, can we do it? We might have a one-off season. Now it's like, no, we are there. Yeah. How high can we go within the top 3?
Sam, do you think City, for them, it's their title to lose in a way? City have strengthened right back, they've strengthened defensive midfield, the areas they needed to. Yeah,
City are the best team in the country. Obviously, last year, the margin was only 1 point. Liverpool had a fantastic season. But I think, I'm trying to read a bit more on the stats point of view of football. And if you look at all the chances City create and the chances they concede and the expected goals against, City they're doing what they should be doing. Yeah. They're scoring the chances they're creating. They're conceding very few goals, but they're conceding very few chances. Whereas Liverpool are conceding more chances than they concede. Fair enough, you're allowed a good goalkeeper, and Alisson's a good goalkeeper, so maybe he's been the difference. But maybe we'll see in the next few weeks without him. They're scoring maybe more goals than they should, on the XG models and that kind of thing. And you just think maybe there's other factors. Anfield's a factor. The emotional factor of Liverpool is one of the best things about them. That's why they got to Champions League final. But I just think statistically, the numbers are there for City. They know exactly what they're supposed to be doing. As you mentioned, they strengthened over the summer. We'll see more of Cancelo in the coming weeks. Rodri's already started really well and then only get better. They've also got players like De Bruyne who's coming back to full fitness. He should have a full season, hopefully, from City's point of view. Mahrez has hinted he could have a good season as well. No Sane, no fourth centre-back, no Company. So there's other things that make you think, maybe it won't be so easy. But you're right. In terms of it being their title to lose, it sounds like a strong statement, but they are the best team, and I'd be surprised if they didn't win it.
We've got City's lineup from the West Ham game on screen as recording. The latest injury news for Manchester City, of course, long-term absentees. Leroy Sane and Benjamin Mendy are unavailable, but otherwise, potentially a fully fit squad. Sam, how do you think City are going to line up versus Tottenham?
I really will try and keep this brief. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Fernandinho came in for Rodri just because he's an even safer pair of hands. But then again, he hasn't played. He wasn't even on the bench at West Ham, so there might be some freshness issues there. And then you think maybe Gundogan, who played, as I mentioned earlier, so well against Tottenham in the Champions League, he did come on against West Ham. He has had more of a pre-season. He's not as good as Rodri in that role, but maybe he's a bit of a better fit this specific weekend. So if there's some kind of change there, I wouldn't be surprised. Although Rodri, he's kind of earned the right. If you play against Liverpool, then you can play against Spurs. Spurs are a really good team as well, but if you can play against Liverpool and get away with it, then fine. The other one is, I can see Fernandinho being used as a centre-back at some point very soon. People are talking about it as if it's going to be an emergency option or a backup option. I can see it happening soon, but again, with a lack of freshness, I'm not sure. And also, there's a bit of a confidence thing with John Stones. I've written about that for The Athletic, check it out. And he didn't do an awful lot wrong against West Ham, Stones. And it's probably be better for his confidence if he was kept in. So at some point soon, I can see them going, we'll try Fernandinho, but maybe this weekend is a bit too early in the season. They'll keep it a bit more set up. So pretty much all of that, I wouldn't be too surprised if it was exactly the same. The curveball I'm thinking, and this is a bit contradictory, because there's a confidence thing with Gabriel Jesus as well, and he scored against West Ham, he looked okay. And you either think he could just put Aguero in, but how do you get Bernardo Silva into that team?
That's what I was going to ask. Where does Bernardo Silva fit into this side? Because arguably he's been one of the best footballers in the last 12 months in the world.
Yes, and Guardiola's favourite player last year, the man for every occasion. The Liverpool game in January where, he ran 14 miles or whatever it was, did everything on the ball, off the ball. And it was a surprise he didn't play last weekend. Guardiola said there was a muscle problem, but you'd think if he's fully fit, he would want him in for a game like this. And then Sterling's played number 9 during pre-season. Guardiola's talked it up quite a bit. He was asked about Sterling, obviously, because he scored a hat-trick at the weekend against West Ham. And Guardiola mentioned how he can still play number 9 of these different positions. And you wonder if that's something he might be thinking of, because you think, it's Guardiola, it's a big game. Does he want to try something a bit different?
Yeah.
And going back to last season when he put Foden in, different circumstances, but he put Foden in, a bit of a shock. You think, how could he catch Spurs out without shuffling his team too much and without, putting in Cancelo and
really moving
centre back?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, I wouldn't be massively surprised if this was the team.
Jamie, for you, Sterling, Aguero or Gabriel Jesus as City's number 9 for this game?
Aguero.
Aguero. So you're going to go with Sergio?
All day long. And just because, the guy's brilliant, it is Spurs. I hear what Sam's saying, and he'd probably be proved completely right with Sterling. I think this is what I would go with. Sort of Sterling on the left.
You'd say arguably this is City's first choice 11 if everyone's fit.
Fernandinho.
If Fernandinho is back in there.
And it's an interesting one what Sam said there, because Stones, make or break is too strong a description, but he's at a little bit of a crossroads with his career. Because he keeps on messing up, giving the ball away. He's lost his first, he was the player that Guardiola wanted when he first came in to be the sort of ball player from the back, and that hasn't happened. But yeah, so this here looks good. I just get the feeling, I was surprised he didn't play Aguero last week. I don't know if that was because it was only West Ham.
I honestly thought
I'm not sure.
He said as far as the Community Shield was concerned, he said he felt Jesus was a bit sharper and a bit quicker.
Yeah, he did say that, yeah.
So you'd imagine it's there.
But it's a good point about Bernardo Silva. I think he sort of walks into their best team. He was like the De Bruyne of last season, if you understand what I mean. But it's interesting because this in a way illustrates how strong
City are. Yeah, the bench.
You can sort of put anyone in and it looks amazing. Yeah. But Aguero, I'm a big fan of Aguero. I just think he has become a lot better under Guardiola as the years.
Oh yeah. Well, if he hadn't, he'd have gone.
Exactly, yeah.
Or
he's embraced that, and he's so
he's got a very good record against Spurs. I remember 4 goals from season before he scored.
I checked this morning. It's something like it's something between 12 and 15, something like that.
Versus Tottenham, which again is a good record that you want to see again. I think Rodri's going to be in midfield. I'd go with that. So I think it's going to be Stones that plays just because of the pace of someone like a Lucas Moura, who's played in that number 9 position for Tottenham, who we'll chat about in a little bit. But it's an interesting City side. Full strength. They're looking good going into the season, and expect them to pull off something big, I think, against Spurs.
Yeah, well, there's a few other questions. We could be here all day, but Otamendi played in the first leg against Spurs because it was like a real big aerial battle. It was such a physical game, and Guardiola's thought, we'll go for Otamendi. Maybe being at home, it'll be a bit different.
One last thing. So, right wing, I think, is the big contentious one. Mahrez or Bernardo Silva for you, Jamie?
Bernardo Silva.
Sam, you're going for Bernardo?
I'm still thinking this false 9 thing.
Okay, so Sam, you're going outside the box. So Mahrez stays and Aguero comes out. I like this. Yeah. Sterling through the middle.
And then they could just switch around.
Yeah, so a lot of fluidity between the front three. Very, very nice.
They've tried it at times before, albeit with injuries, but it's a good way of getting Bernardo in, and it gives them options.
So if we take a look at Spurs' 11 for their opening game, they still have Heung-min Son suspended, and the latest injury news is that Dele Alli looks like he's set to miss out. Sessegnon has given a little bit more time to recover back from his injury, but Ben Davies could be available. So how do you expect Spurs to line up versus the game? Do you reckon they're going to go with the diamond, Jamie?
I think they're going to put Eriksen in from a start, for a start. I quite like him in that position.
See the
diamond
tip?
Yeah. And other than that, I don't know. I'm never that convinced by Harry Winks, to be honest with you.
Really?
Just in my
he is a guy that really splits
opinions.
I back Jamie. I am not a fan of Harry Winks.
I'm going to say he's good at what he does, but I'm not completely sure he does loads and loads.
If you were saying this about Eric Dyer, I'd be like, oh, I'm with you. But I think Winks has got more about him. I can see him starting for England next summer.
What do you think?
I think he just makes their play so much easier. He's a bit like Fernandinho. So it's just so quick. And it helps the other players. Obviously then Ndombele's new, but if you look at that midfield there, if you can get the ball to those players quickly, are they dynamic players like Sissoko who can carry the ball, or Eriksen who can use it properly? I just think he's always in the right areas and he gives it really well. I think he's a step forward from Eric Dyer.
I think if you put Rodri in that position, Spurs get very, very close to City.
A bit more expansive,
Again, I think the Champions League final highlighted that greatly, that he was poor in that game. He retained the ball, passed it to the centre halves, to the fullbacks, didn't play forward against Liverpool.
I think they were all inhibited in the final.
They were massively, but I think he was one of the worst. In my personal opinion.
Well, yeah, to be fair, if you're in the engine room, then you're inhibited, then a lot of the others will be.
Exactly, his job is to move the ball.
Yeah, this is the big difference. You can say not every player is going to be as good as Fernandinho, of course not, but that's kind of what you're up against.
That's the standard.
And I don't know. I think he's okay. Obviously, he's a very good player to get this far in his career.
When Lo Celso comes in, and obviously, maybe not this weekend, but you've got somebody who can play where Lamela is. You've got somebody who can even. I know it didn't go particularly well from a PSG, but you've got somebody who can play the deep line role as well. So you've got those options where you can change it around in the game, and to have somebody who can play in completely different roles like that, that's going to be. it's going to be huge for Spurs in terms of maybe potentially bridging the gap to the top 2 teams this season.
I think their signings have been fantastic. I think each of the players they've brought in, if Pochettino could do what he's done with the previous players he's had.
I'm sure he can.
With a Dele Alli, with a Kane, like the ceiling's big.
What makes me laugh is Danny Rose and Alderweireld seem to have been leaving Spurs for the last 3 years, and they always stay there, and they always sort of get into his first choice side.
I think it's very difficult to leave Spurs. I think it's really difficult. But people always talk about Daniel Levy and buying players from them, but that's as far as you get with negotiations. Players find it difficult to even get to a stage where they get a club to come and negotiate for them.
Yeah.
I think Danny Rose showed in the Champions League that he's still at that top level. I think arguably he was one of their best players in the quarters and the semis.
And that's what surprised me, that there's always this chat that he is supposed to be leaving, or he wants to, whichever way around you want to put it. But Alderweireld was interesting. I asked the question, apparently, Solskjaer, for United, when he was 25 million, apparently Solskjaer wasn't for Solskjaer.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I thought for 25 million, I couldn't see how he wouldn't improve Manchester United, which is a slightly different conversation, I understand that. I mean, I tell you what, it's an obvious thing to say. If they can beat City on Saturday, it's big if, of course. That'd be interesting then for what that does for both sides. You get the feeling with this Guardiola team, with it being Guardiola, it probably won't affect them.
They'll bounce back.
You know,
last 2 seasons they've dropped points.
Yeah.
They drew with Everton in the first one and Wolves last year, so it wouldn't be the end of the world for them.
No, it wouldn't. But it would, I think they almost need to do that, Spurs, if they really want to
take that.
Yeah, I think so.
Level.
Yeah.
Right, guys, it's time to talk about the key battles. That's why everyone's come. We want to know where the game is going to be won and lost. Sam, first up, for you, which is the big battle of the game?
Can I be a bit awkward and not boil it down to players?
No, that's absolutely fine.
I was asked this exact question ahead of the Champions League game at the Etihad. And I said it was more about the area around Fernandinho, as it was then, or Gundogan. Because, especially in the Champions League, and even in a game like this, like when Lyon played, obviously you got Ndombele there, who was great for Lyon last season, they took the game to City. They were very physical. They pressed them, forced mistakes. They gave Fernandinho in the group stage a very hard time, didn't allow him to settle. And if you've got Ndombele and Sissoko, and if you've got the number 10 dropping off as well, you can make it very difficult. Rodri, as we've seen, he's not getting caught on the ball every 5 minutes. He's very good on the ball. But it's happened a couple of times, and they can win the ball back.
The first 20 minutes, that it felt like he wasn't quite up to the speed.
Yeah.
And then he took that pass from Walker, lost it, and then seemed to grow into the game.
Yeah.
He can't afford to do that against Spurs, right?
Exactly. Well, like I say, he did it early on against Liverpool as well. If you can get away with it against Liverpool, then maybe you can against Spurs. But it's not the kind of risk you want to be taking. So I think it's going to be in those areas. That is a problem for City. And also, as we saw actually in that game, the Champions League, if you take the game to them and have the ball in those areas, there can be mistakes. Look, Laporte only made 2 mistakes in the whole of that season, but they were both in the game against Spurs. So it can happen. And obviously Stones with the whole issue, 9 times out of 10, maybe 8 times out of 10, he's a reliable defender, perfectly reliable. Not quite as reliable as Laporte. And if they can get the ball in that area, there's other issues with Rodri as well, where if he goes to press at the wrong moment, they can get past him. And if Spurs attack with numbers, and a lot of strong running in there, you've got Kane around, Lamella around, Eriksen, Mauro, whoever it is, you've got direct players who can really get in those gaps and cause problems. So I think it's going to be in that general area, the back of the City midfield.
Interesting. Jamie, for you?
Well, I mean, I completely agree with everything Sam said. So going sort of the other way, can they stop? This is Spurs, so sort of Sissoko, Winks and Ndombele. Can they stop, say, David Silva flourishing? Because when he plays, when he dominates a game, they usually win and quite comfortably. Yeah. Quite. It's quite nice to watch because he's such a good player. Because if he's operating, then Aguero comes into the game with chances. Sterling. You could sort of say the same about De Bruyne, but for me, I don't know. David Silva for me is a slightly, I wouldn't say he's a better player, but he's tidier. Yeah, he's just more creative.
That's his role.
Yeah, he's more creative. So can they get basically step on his toes and get him out of the game?
The thing about David Silva, one of the reasons we could have put in Bernardo, a lot of people want Bernardo Silva to come in for David Silva.
David Silva, yeah, that's the natural.
But his role in the team, David Silva is effectively the hub on that left-hand side. He gets the ball in short spaces, short passes, because Zinchenko will be up here, the defensive midfielder will be next to him, the left-sided winger will be next to him, and Aguero is always there as well. And David Silva's always in the middle. He gets it, he gives it to someone else, he can get it again. And that's why they always get down here. Yeah. Because while Silva's got it, the other one runs in behind. He plays it to them, they cut it back, they score. So you can't just put Bernardo Silva in there unless he learns to play a slightly different way, or he learns to play exactly the same as David Silva. Yeah. So you're right, De Bruyne is more, obviously he's fantastic at it, he's probably the best player in the Premier League for me. he plays more of the percentages. So he'll come out here and he'll put balls in. The people want to get on the end of. But David Silva ties everything together, and it's also tight on that side. That's why they get so many tapping goals, because he's at the heart of it.
It's quite interesting in terms of the stats. David Silva completed the most passes in the final third versus West Ham. Kevin De Bruyne was created. And that's kind of the side to it, isn't it? That they've got a guy that creates, plays the percentage, and they've got a guy that will play that final pass, which Spurs, I completely agree with you, Jamie. This is going to be a key area, whether Sissoko, Winks, and Alderweireld and Walker-Peters. How can they deal with David Silva and the threat of City's left-hand side? Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the other side of Manchester. The Monday night game is Wolves at home to Manchester United. Jamie, is the optimism back at Manchester United following the demolition of Chelsea?
It is. I think there was optimism anyway as the summer sort of went on and they forgot about the end of last season. You know what it's like in the close season.
What happened? Nothing happened.
Well,
game
yeah. They couldn't win. I don't know, they won one in the last 5 or something. But so I think the optimism is back. You know, after that game, you know, I was at it. But if you're asking me, does that mean that they can contend for the title? I'm afraid the answer is no. But I think most sane or sage sort of fans or normal, you know, neutrals would say the same. It was interesting because, talk about it earlier, I get this whole thing that Chelsea were better in the first half, like they really were. And then you could sort of say, well, you know, we're United, did it flash them? But if you flip those halves around and United do that in the first half, then maybe you say no. And that, to a certain extent, it's football. You've got to take your chances. I mean, Pogba does nothing in the game. That's a bit of a shocker. Then he produces that pass for the Rashford second. It's a beautiful pass. And that's the beauty of a play. That for me, he can play duff all game and then do that, because that's why, you know, that's what you need. But can Rashford do this week in, week out? Because they need a player. I know it's an obvious thing to say, but they need a player who can score a hatful of goals, because they haven't got it. You know, he'll look good like that, look brilliant. And then what I did like, my actual favourite thing of the whole game was the Martial goal. It was I put up a piece for the Guardian. It's like an old-fashioned sniffers goal. You know, Pereira bangs it in, and there's Martial bundling it in. You sort of almost.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah, and you know, that's kind of. It's a little bit gritty, whatever you want to call it. It's not like what you'd associate with Martial, elegant, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, it's interesting. I mean, Wolves is going to be very interesting. They lost both in the Cup and in the League there. 2-1, I think it was, but each time last season. 2 results they shouldn't really have lost. Or shouldn't really have suffered. So it's another test. What I'm interested in, really, with United this season is, obviously it's about Solskjaer. This fitness thing, looked into a little bit what he did at Molde when he went there and won them the first title. This is obviously in Norway in 100 years ever. And he's doing more or less the same thing here. Listen, it's a bigger canvas, it's Manchester United, it's the big beast and all the rest of it. I get all that. But there's this thing with fitness, the way he's playing, young players, Daniel James, you had a shot of there before. It's a similar template. Let's see if it works. I mean, you know, no one can argue with the signings he brought in. I wouldn't say, but I think they were probably one short. He probably would concede that, which is obviously central midfield. Yeah, for me anyway. But that's not. I think that was a little bit out of his control. If you look at the net spend, it was 77 million. So that is a little bit like Lampard at Chelsea, but not as extreme, because of that sort of. It's going to sound a little bit stupid, because of the sort of lack of funds, or not as much funds as he wanted. He's almost got an excuse to go with the youth, which I think he would do anyway.
But then again, like, the talent there is like, I think this is the big thing.
But can it train on?
But then it's like these guys, like watching Angel Gomez. I watch quite a lot of youth football. I love the UEFA Youth League. He has got such talent. He's like top level talent in that. You're looking at someone like Chong, who, when he makes the right decisions in the final third, sometimes is unplayable. Jimmy Garner in midfield is fantastic. And this is the thing, I don't think United... They're not
even mentioned Greenwood there, have you? You know what I mean?
See what I mean? This is what I mean. I'm not even mentioning the number one guy that everyone's talking about. And that's why, for me, it's kind of like, it's almost exciting.
Yeah, and what I really hope is, let's say they don't get top 4, as long as he does it in a good way, if that makes sense. So, you know, he's trying and they're exciting and vibrant, he doesn't get the sack, because then what is the point otherwise?
But that's it, there's no point in letting him go for one season, right, Sam?
Yeah, completely. It's just, the thing that stuck for me there was, if you're not in the top 4, you're dropping a lot of points. And it's just, how can you do that and convince people you're trying to do it in the right way? I think it probably can be done. Maybe if you're losing games, look, because probably Mourinho and Van Gaal the football was terrible.
That's what I'm getting at. It's a style.
Maybe so. But yeah, it's just, if you're missing out on the top 4, I'm not saying United are going to, but if they do, then it's harder to justify it. But you're right, if there's enough youth in there, and I think there's enough space in the midfield in particular. I think they need to try a lot of different things to find the right answer eventually. Because I'm not too sure about Pereira. Yeah. And I just think if there's another option in there, a young option, then it could be something that's worth
Yeah, I mean,
exploring.
Pereira for me, I was staggered he started that game. Other people say, well, he looked good in pre-season.
Yeah, it was I think it was the Inter Milan game where he was very energetic from that number 10 position.
But, and I thought he had a little bit of a shocker again. He gives away possession too much for me, but then he creates that goal. Solskjaer obviously fancies him, because he gave him a chance last season. But I do think they're really light there.
Yeah, at least with Pereira, he fills a job.
Yeah.
I don't think he's good enough on the ball overall. I'm thinking top 4 level, which you're looking at Spurs, Liverpool, and
At the moment,
City, which
again,
is fine.
a reasonably young player in the grand scheme of things,
exactly.
you'd say.
But in terms of having Mata and Pogba there, if you're going to let Pogba play a
I
bit deeper
agree.
and stroll around a bit, then
You basically need Scott McTominay.
Yeah, exactly. But then who's going to sit? Because Matic is
Yeah.
Got to say it.
up and down, but more down.
Don't be shy.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, the Wolves game, I could see them going there winning 4-0 or maybe losing 2-0. You just don't know with this United side because it is a bit of a reboot,
Before we move on to the tactics, so Wolves last season, after FA Cup games, their Premier League game after their FA Cup game, they had a really bad record. In the 6 games, They lost 3, drew 2, and only won 1 game. So you think in Europa League is going to be a problem. Wolves play in the Europa League, then face Manchester United. But now it's time to talk about tactics. So let's take a look at the Wolves 11 from their opening game of the Premier League. The latest news is there's no news on the injury front, but we're recording this before their Europa League clash, so things could change. But Wolves in this 3-5-2, Sam, nice football, right?
That's a nice 11, isn't it? That looks
It is
good.
nice.
That looks good. I like it. And I think the key for Wolves last season, they lacked a bit of consistency, which is why they didn't get in the top 6. But the key in the end was when they brought Dendoncker in, and he was sitting, and then it allows Neves and Moutinho to have a bit more freedom, and they were a bit more comfortable then dictating the game against teams that sit deep, because a lot of teams went to Wolves and just defended because they kind of limited ambition, a lot of teams in the Premier League, and Wolves have got ambition, so they went, we'll let them do the attacking, and they struggled. But that changed things. And also I think in the case of United, Chelsea were quite easy to play against because you knew Chelsea were going to go for it.
Yeah.
I think Wolves will be a bit more circumspect than that. I think they'll be much harder. Yeah, exactly. You can see it being a back 5.
Yeah.
You've got Dendoncker in front of them. You've got Neves and Moutinho, not so much. You don't really classify them as hard working, but certainly clever. So if it comes to counter-attacks, they're going to pick those balls off. And Jimenez and Jota are really good players, particularly on the break. So they're going to, I think, in some ways, they're going to be a much harder opponent for United than Chelsea were.
On that note, I wonder whether he might start James just instead of Lingard, just because of his pace might help break in behind, however you want to describe it. Because if it does go this way, Wolves do go this way, which they may well do, you might think, well, I need some searing pace
To get him behind the wing backs, especially.
Yeah, he obviously scored that goal for all sorts of reasons. That was brilliant for him and the team. I mean, they should be going there united and winning this kind of game. And you've always got to, whenever you say something like that, you're always supposed to say, no disrespect to the opposition or the player, but it's Wolverhampton Wanderers who just don't have the same money, history, pedigree, whatever you want to call it, as Manchester United. People could say that matters for nothing, but what it should affect is the team that they put out in terms of the quality and the way it's playing. And if Solskjaer means business, which he obviously wants to, he has to go here really. And I even think a draw is not great. You could say, well, it's Wolves, they're a decent side, a draw away from home for a sort of new project, but I'd just like to see them go there and really. What he has guaranteed, and what people like me will be asking about if it doesn't happen, is vibrant attacking football, having a go. This is what I mean earlier about doing it in the right way. So fans expect, and why he's been hired, and why he's why he's sort of well thought of, is because he wants to play the United way. So here we go. Here's a game here.
As got to beat a deep defence, open them up, create some chances,
and give it a go. I don't mean like big gung ho and not clever or streetwise.
Smart football.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and smart football. You can do both basically. If you ask me my favourite player, it's got to be Neves in this side. He's remember it came up with City last season, didn't it, with Guardiola, and you could tell by the way he talked about him that he likes him.
Like if it wasn't Rodri, it should have been Neves.
So. But it's a Monday night game. I think I'm pretty sure, I don't know this, but I'm pretty sure Solskjaer was saying, look, they turned us over twice at their place.
That's a big thing. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Let's go there with everything we've been working on.
Let's do it.
Yeah, and basically beat them.
I think the big thing with Wolves is that the front two and how, like we sort of mentioned, Neves' passing range, his ability to switch the play and move attack from defence quickly, that's going to be the issue for Manchester United. But it's time to talk about Manchester United. This is their 11 from the Chelsea game. Are we expecting Alexis Sanchez anytime soon, Jamie?
No, not anytime soon. No.
You're not thinking bringing Sanchez for Anthony Martial, number 9, through the middle?
No.
To the bench?
Possibly. No, I wonder whether he's going to go with Pereira again. I wonder whether he might have a little bit of a rejig. But as I said earlier, I think he might start James. I think he wants James to be a starter, but he obviously has to be good enough and prove it. And I think this maybe it's too early. I'm not sure, but I'd like to see that.
Who does he come in for, Dan James? Are you taking out Rashford? He can't be Rashford, can't be Martial. So
Lingard, yeah, 100%.
And you're thinking on the right-hand side? You think he might play on the left-hand side?
He traditionally plays on the left, I believe, or he certainly has done for most of his career. But I'd like him on the right because he's got that sort of cutting in thing. I think Rashford. One of the biggest positives, if not the biggest positive, last Sunday I thought was the fact that Rashford and Martial worked. They scored goals, and the piece was kind of about this. I did the sort of colour piece for the Guardian, so it was kind of headed on Martial and Rashford. And even when Martial, for example, was out of the game because there wasn't much chances coming his way, he was drifting in and out and pulling players with him, and asking a couple of questions. So I like these two. It's a big if, but we're sort of talking hypothetically. If they can click consistently, then United might be in business.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest interesting things for me was in the second half. I think first half they were kind of playing as a 2.
Yeah.
And I think Chelsea were getting too much joy. I think defensively United were a little bit open. Ollie changed it, which is absolutely awesome. They were more 4-4-1-1. They were more like we're ready to counter-attack. The big thing with Martial, he was the most sprints on the pitch. 18 sprints he made. I think that's the most I've ever seen him make.
Yeah, 100.
It sounds a lot.
So
for any footballer.
For him, it's very, very good. Rashford's sprint numbers are usually a joke. He's usually time and time again, he's running behind 20, 21. But for Martial, big improvements.
Yes.
The thing that I really enjoyed as well was not only him running in behind, but pulling wide. We saw that for the fourth goal. That combination play with Pogba, really good. He checks his shoulder 3 times, see where the defender is, he slips it inside, they score a goal off the back. Sam, how good do you think Martial can be if he is the number 1 for Man United?
He can be fantastic. It's always this debate, like City-wise, I hate to bring them into it too much, but if Martial had been playing for Guardiola for the last 3 years, he would now be one of the best in the world.
Or we'd see the Sane situation. I think it could go either way.
Yeah, true, you're right, actually. Because up until recently, it was kind of, he could be at Sane's level.
Yeah.
And, Sane's still at a high level. But you're right, there might be that. That's fair enough. But at the end of the day, it's been like that with Mourinho anyway. So you might as well be a better player and fall out with your manager than have a stop-start career and fall out with your manager. He's got so much talent. It's a shame that even last season didn't go so well for him, because I really thought when Solskjaer came in, like everyone's going to click into gear now. We're going to see the best of Pogba, we're going to see the best of Martial, Rashford. We saw it for a bit, and then it just went again, didn't it? And even Martial, when he was getting the chances, even I was like, it's not really happening, is it?
Doesn't look confident.
You have to take him out.
Yeah.
But yeah, like new season, new approach. Monday night will be another test because, like I say, I don't think Wolves are going to make it as easy for United to find those spaces as Chelsea did. I don't think a lot of teams will, actually.
No, I think the crucial thing, is the first goal. I think if United can score that first goal, and then arguably, play a little bit like Klopp's Liverpool, where they're sitting that deep a bit, they're using their pace on the counter-attack. You've got to grab that first goal. I think that's so important. As you mentioned before, Jamie, if United had played like they did in the second half versus Chelsea in the first half, I think the game is United dominant. But it was that start.
I mean, sooner or later, Manchester United, being Manchester United, are going to have to click and be a proper team again. I'm not saying it's going to happen on Monday and this season, but there has to be. So it's easy to say this, of course, but maybe Chelsea might have ignited something. My concern with Martial is not about talent, no way. I think he's an amazing talent, but can he just keep his head up when it's not going so great for him? He's not scoring a goal. Maybe he has to be taken out of the team, and you know what I mean. And he not a sulk, but he sort of, I should be in the side and all the rest of it.
I think what Ollie and the coaches have done in pre-season is they've almost retuned him. So he presses better.
Yeah. Well, he presses full. So he didn't do it. Yeah.
The big thing is his angle of his body. He's now pushing the opposition down one side of the pitch. Never used to do that. They've worked on that. I think that's robotic. I think if he has a bad game, hopefully he'll fall back onto this. What have I been training? What have I been training doing that? Yeah. Not only that, but the run for the second goal for Martial, where he scored the goal, where he made that really weird run, where he almost ran round Rashford and pulled wide. that just seemed, again, a little bit robotic, but a coaching thing.
Yeah, and this is what I'm talking about. If he has a sort of base level where even if he's not scoring goals, but he's still doing stuff,
doing the important things,
and he understands that he's getting love for that. And this is where the management is so crucial. You have to really, really work on these players like this. People might say, well, he's earning 150 grand, 200 grand a week. Why? But that's just the way it goes. But if you can get him to such a point where he understands that he's valued, even if he's not in the team that week, then you'll have elevated him mentally within himself, and that's kind of what with Rashford. I can't make my mind up. Is he going to be is he going to do a Thierry Henry and sort of turn it on from 21, 22, 23 when he
the difference is the coaching. It's the coaching, isn't it? It's a system. Like you look at right. It's the other way around. If Guardiola had taken over United, it's the same thing. Rashford and Martial will be much better players.
So it's time to talk about the key battles of this game. Sam, I'm going to come to you first. So you're talking about this sort of right-sided area for Manchester United in defence.
Yeah, obviously Wan-Bissaka, he had a really good debut. Like your tweet laying out all the stats.
All the stats.
All of them.
He did the lot.
Well, pretty much all of them.
Completely.
And also, obviously, if you watch the game, you think this guy's had a good debut. I think he's the best signing United have made in years since Pogba.
Better than Harry Maguire.
Yes. I mean, obviously, this was going up until the game, and obviously Maguire had a good start. We'll see how that goes. But when Wan-Bissaka signed, I thought this is the best signing in years. Yeah. And if not Pogba, then going back before that, I can't even remember.
Falcao, right?
Probably, yeah, Di Maria and all of those lads.
Butler.
The banter era. But he was caught out of position a few times. And not so much a better side than Chelsea, but maybe a more coherent side than Chelsea would take advantage of that. And Jota, for some reason, there's a game against Arsenal coming into my head last year. He was very good on the counter-attack against Arsenal, scoring down his side,
absolutely.
Shooting across the goal. And that just might be something that I'd be wary of from Wolves' attacking point of view and from United's defensive point of view.
Yeah, sort of that ball with, for example, if Neves has it, maybe at defensive midfield or even a Moutinho, and then Jota is making that run in behind the defence. That's the sort of ball you're talking about, right?
And also, just even if United had got the ball, the big thing about City is that if you give away the transitions, if the ball in the transitions, you're knackered because you're all out of position. Yeah. They don't do it often. United do it a bit more. And if Wan-Bissaka's already gone up here, then he's going to have to get them straight back. And Wolves will be ready to win those balls in those areas and spring and pounce. So that's the one area I'd kind of be wary about from a United point of view.
It is quite interesting. Obviously, we've spoke on the Squawka channel about how United kind of invert their fullbacks now and that modern thing. But this might not be a game to do that. This might be a game to sit as a 3 or a 4, depending on where United are attacking or so forth. Right, Jamie, let's move on to your key battle of the game. What are you going with?
Yeah, the sort of Wolves defence via the Martial-Rashford axis, if I can put it that way. And sort of key to this as well, tied into this anyway, is Pogba. Because I think he should be really the main creative
hub for Manchester United.
Yeah, whether that's actually materially passing the ball or just making runs and sort of just influence the game. They obviously did well against Chelsea last Sunday. I'm just very interested to see if that continues. They were quite fluid. I think Pogba for me he scored the most he's ever done in his career last season. I can't remember how many it was. I think it was double figures, wasn't
13.
it? Right, okay. He should really, because he's good enough and all the rest of it, should be scoring 15 plus.
Yeah.
So why I'm saying that is, if these are making runs and drifting out and just creating space, can Pogba be the player to get in there?
To carry directly through.
Yeah. So, Connor Cody, Bennett Bowley, can they sort of deal
with that marauding run? If you remember in the game in the FA Cup, I think it was, they were almost cynical on Paul Pogba, where Pogba would break that first challenge on the counter, and then either Dendoncker, Neves or Moutinho would take him out.
See, this is interesting you say this, because this is something that I think is lost from football, is why doesn't a Pogba or whoever it is being cynically done, sort of, I don't mean break the law and get a yellow card, but he should be more in the opposition's face when that's happening, to just to let him know I'm not going to stand for this. I think there's a little bit of that sort of edge and whatever you want to call it. Yeah, gone out of, it's a little part of the play that you don't really see.
I think if they can get to this situation where they are in their attacking shape, we've seen this from City frequently, as mentioned before, the two sort of 3/8s, a number 9, and then the two wide players. If they can get this 5v4 on the counter-attack, in possession, or however they do it, I think United comfortably win this game. I think this is what they need to create in a possessional sense.
No, I completely agree with you. As I said earlier, I'll be disappointed as you know the United correspondent of the Guardian if they don't win this game, because obviously I want to see the teams I cover do well. And you know, I am excited about this season, but I'll tell you what, there'll be a big deflation round if they go there and stink the place out and lose 2-0.
Right, so we've looked at the two biggest games of both Manchester clubs. We've got two experts with us right now. It's time to dive around the leagues. First up, Sam, I'm going to come to you. Arsenal versus Burnley.
Yeah, well, Burnley got a big win. I'm not sure how many people expected that. Playing at home, we know what you're going to get from Burnley. You don't know what you're going to get from Arsenal. I still probably expect them to win. I like how much attacking talent they've got. It didn't really come together against Newcastle, but you know, young players like Willock and Reece Nelson are exciting enough. Nicolas Pepe to come in at some point. I'd like to see how David Luiz settles in. So it should be an interesting game. A lot of them are interesting.
Burnley's physicality versus the Arsenal flair.
Yeah, the new Arsenal flair. Yeah, they've got so many attacking players. Probably still go for Arsenal though. Too much quality.
Cool. Let's move on to promoted side Aston Villa versus Bournemouth. Jamie.
Yeah, I thought Villa were very good in that game against Spurs. Soon they just come up, and I know because he keeps on saying this, that he'd worked with about 5 of those players before the manager. But I think is it 12 or 13 or 40 or 50?
Spends lots of money.
Yeah, but they look like they had a plan. He seems to know what he's doing, the manager. And Grealish, it's not an exact science. I mean, when it was a championship game, but I saw him play. I think they played Sheffield Wednesday towards the end of last season, and he easily stood out. As I say, I know it's championship level, but I thought looking at the game last week, again he looked like he knows what he's doing. Jack Grealish, you know, and he belongs at this sort of level. Bournemouth, I don't know, did they concede the most goals last season? We were discussing this on the way over, actually. I don't know, is it 60 odd goals?
They've got through this weird sloppy stage again where they need to kind of get back to that Lewis Cook central midfield type vibes.
So I'm seeing Villa winning this, to be honest, sort of 2-0 or something.
Fair. John McGinn inspired Villa. In fact, John McGinn won more tackles than he completed passes last weekend. Sam, back to you. Brighton versus West Ham. Brighton, who surprisingly looked good in that first week.
And not just good, but like
excellent,
quite exciting. Yeah. And just they did something that wasn't just like get through last on match of the day, which is what they often do. Yeah, they defended quite well. Doug's really good. He could have gone somewhere else, but they've kept hold of him. One of the big questions of the season is how Graham Potter gets on. West Ham, I mean, they looked all right in the first half.
Dodgy at the back.
But then crumbled, yeah. And even, to be fair, even when City were giving them the ball more often than City give anyone, they weren't really doing anything with it. But they've got enough quality.
Definitely.
The thing is with the Pellegrini team, they've always got that quality. They're always going to be a bit flaky. If Brighton can keep it up, you can see them winning it. But the whole point of Brighton is, well, not the whole point of them, but the whole point with them is they're not very consistent. So it's a difficult one. I wouldn't be surprised if West Ham won.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think someone like Umpire up front signed from Brentford looks really Premier League ready. Right, let's move on to Everton versus Watford, Jamie.
Yeah, Marco Silva interests me because I wonder whether he's going to be another Andre Villas-Boas. I'm not saying that just because they're both Portuguese, but just because, you know, Villas-Boas, I don't know what, he had done something in Portugal, don't get me wrong, but with Silva, at his previous 2 clubs, I don't know, I didn't pull up any trees, and here he was at Everton. And I thought, here we go again last season. You know, at a certain stage, he didn't look great, but then he's come out of that. Yeah, he's come out of that. Don't know,
This has got the potential to be a mad game.
Javi Grass's
Silva
Watford
derby.
Awful in the last 10 games of the Premier League of last season. I think they picked up 1 win, or they were atrocious. So they need to turn that form around.
I know it was a long time ago, but you know that FA Cup hammering wasn't great for them. So I think knowing a couple of players at Everton, and they're very happy now with the manager. I think that they'll probably win that, maybe 2-1 or something. Yeah.
Cool. So moving on to the battle of the ends, Norwich versus Newcastle. Norwich were impressive in spells versus Liverpool. Very much spells. Kind of the second half, right?
Well, the thing is with that game, you think, it's Liverpool, so fine. I think Liverpool, they conceded more shots on their goal than they did in any game last season. So it goes to show that Norwich, are good, and there's the template there for a good team. But this is where it really makes a difference, because you can say, against Liverpool, fine, you don't expect it to win. But you've got to be beating Newcastle at home.
This is a big game for them.
You've got to be beating Newcastle at home. And if you go and attack and you play attacking football, which I'm absolutely nothing against, obviously, but you've got to make it work against these teams, because Newcastle probably going to set up to be solid and counter through the guy who came on.
Joelinton, you've got
Joelinton's the target man. Almiron, he wasn't very good against Arsenal. Alain Maxim.
Yeah.
He's the guy who's a bit of a wild card on the break. But from Norwich's point of view, you think if you're going to make this work in the Premier League, and I hope they do, because it'd be good for teams at that end to play football. They need to make it work this weekend.
I think big this weekend is going to be both their fullbacks, Max Aarons and Ben Lewis. Both very, very good for me against Liverpool. Positionally, first half caught out, but I like what they were doing going forward. And with someone like Bundia in the side, he's my new favourite player in the Premier League, so I expect him to do well.
There's an interview with him on The Athletic. Check it
Bang,
out.
go and check it out. We'll link it in the description below. Let's move on to Southampton versus Liverpool. A tapping right after, but the Super Cup.
No, but I'm so glad this one came to me, because did you see Klopp doing the joke that we all think, and every time you see Adrian. Did you see it? Well, he did it because Des thingy
popped up to him.
Asked him about it. He said, "Oh, can you believe it?" So for that alone, he's charmed me this week, Jurgen Klopp. I sort of go up and down with the Kloppster. But so I mean, come on. I know it's an away game, but it's Liverpool, champions of Europe. They just won the Super Cup. I've actually tipped them to win the league. That's ahead of City. Maybe foolishly. So, they've got to go. I don't know, 3-0. I just don't see much from Saints.
You see, I think Southampton, at home this season, going to do the business. They have the youngest average starting 11 in the Premier League last season. Ralph Hasenhuttl, who likes to press. Liverpool are tired. Southampton win for me. Moving to Sunday, we've already done the Spurs game and the City game. So, back to you, Sam. Sheffield United versus Crystal Palace.
Well, the interesting thing about them on the first game when they played Bournemouth is everyone expected them to attack. A bit like Norwich and Liverpool, but I think they were a bit more savvy.
Yes,
they played a lot more within themselves. Tried to soak up what Bournemouth had. In the end, it wasn't a lot. The Bournemouth goal changed the game, and then they weren't attacking. Then they went for it. I think they bossed the last half an hour. They got these overlapping centre backs, which
crazy ideas.
I saw it there. I was like, what? I mean, how does that even work? But the centre backs were pushing up, getting up in the wide areas, putting balls into the box, supplying the wingers or whatever. It's a mad thing. It's a mad thing for football, not just the Premier League.
Yeah.
But it shows that they've got a bit about them, maybe a bit more savvy than Norwich. Palace have had terrible pre-season, 0-0 with Everton. So they're always a solid team. Again, you probably imagine them try and defend, hit on the counter-attack. You don't know if Zaha's going to play. Sheffield United, first game back Bramall Lane in the Premier League. I'd go with a more attacking team and give it to them. You kind of fancy them as well. And to round things off, of course, we've already chatted about Wolves versus Man United. It's Chelsea versus Leicester City.
Chelsea, for me, at the moment, are the story of the season because of the Lampard thing. I think it's almost like a sort of like an experiment we're watching in real time.
The return of the king.
Well,
but is the king good enough?
Yeah, and also he's had a transfer embargo. They've lost Eden Hazard. Tammy Abrams starting up front at Old Trafford. Not for me, thank you very much. Now, Leicester, I think they've got the right manager in Rodgers. Love his teeth.
Yeah.
I love the whole Prince Rodgers. It makes you laugh every time I think of him. But we've got Jamie Vardy there. I think he was the top English Premier League scorer.
He finished the season in red hot form. I think we forget that. Really good form.
I know he's 32, but there's not an ounce of whatever on him. I don't know. I think this is going to be Chelsea's third consecutive defeat in a competitive game under Lampard, and this experiment that's so good to sort of witness will go to the next level.
I think the only man that could save Chelsea, Christian Pulisic. I thought he was really good in the Super Cup.
I think they'll improve, and with Kante as well. I know they had the long game against Liverpool, but they look better against Liverpool. They look like they know what they're doing. Yeah. They just need players to actually carry out the roles a bit better.
Centre-half is the big issue. Christensen, Zuma, they need someone calm there. And if they can get Rudiger again, he's grown, and I think if they can get him back, they will be absolutely fine.
Mason Mount looks good.
Oh yeah, what a player! Yeah. What a player. Before you go, guys, one last little thing: the fabled Squawka Challenge. You can see the current leaderboard on screen right now. Of course, Jesse Lingard got 7, Stephen Howson only 6. I'm going to give you 60 seconds to name as many Brazilian football clubs as you can, starting now. Both involved.
Sao Paulo, Flamengo,
Fluminense, Palmeiras, Santos.
Club Brazil. What was the team?
There's a team called Sport, Curitiba, Figueirense, Atletico Paranaense, Avaí, Bahia, Goiás. There's a team called CSA, a team called CRB, Vitória. Did I say Sport already? USG, which is just East in Portuguese. Ponte Preta, which is where our mate used to live.
Bang.
What are they called? Vasco da Gama.
Yeah.
Botafogo SP are in the second division, which is like a reserve team. I don't know if that counts. International Corinthians.
Wow.
Did I say Curitiba already? I don't know. How many is that?
Loads. You've got loads.
I don't want
Slightly.
to miss any out. Oh, Cruzeiro, Chapecoense. I can't remember.
Is that
There's a
it?
load.
Game over?
Porto Alegre. Oh, no, that's international.
was
That's
that after the
international.
buzzer?
That's international.
Unbelievable. 24 Brazilian clubs named inside 60 seconds. You guys are going to be well atop of the leaderboard.
Let Howson know about this, yeah.
Look, 6 is pathetic.
Howson, what are you doing?
Is this just Brazilian? Is everyone doing the same
This
thing?
is the same challenge, and you guys now, it's going to be hard to knock you off
Yeah, no
that,
one's
but
doing
we'll
that.
see. We may have a final at the end of the season, which you guys will be invited to because of you've such a good score that you have
I don't think you need me.
set.
I'll bring the magic sponge.
Yeah, well, the magic sponge is obviously going to help. But anyway, guys, thanks a lot for coming along to the show today. Of course, you can check out more Jamie and the Observer, the Guardian, Football, Man United, all the good stuff. And Sam Lee at the Athletic. Again, we'll link all the good stuff that we mentioned in this video down below and links to those guys' accounts. Of course, make sure to subscribe to the Squawka YouTube channel if you are new and give the feedback in the comments below. Do you want to see more of this type of show, and what guests should we invite next week? And can they ever beat Sam Lee, Jamie Jackson's score, naming Brazilian clubs? Because I think that is game, set, match. Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching. See you later.